Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you.
Oh, don't you know, it's the Bill Arnold Show. It's Bill.
And a warm welcome to the Bill Arnold Show. Wyatt, how is it we get to do this? Come on.
This job?
Yes.
I feel very blessed and fortunate every single day. You got a big smile on your face right now.
I do have a big smile on my
excited.
face. Yeah, I'm glad to have Dr. Glenn Pickering with me in studio, and we're going to talk about struggles that will threaten to push the two of you apart. Probably you've had plenty of struggles, but you don't want to separate, or you don't want to have a situation where you can't work it out. We're going to talk about that today with Glenn. I assume that's the topic. Is that right, Glenn?
We'll find out, right?
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
I just do what Wyatt tells me.
Welcome to my world. Yeah, so let's talk about this struggle where two people are thinking, this is pushing us apart.
Yeah, couples often come to me and say, well, Glenn, we've really drifted apart because this happened or that happened, because her mom died or the kid got sick or I lost a job or whatever. And I don't want to be dismissive because I get struggles are real. But it's not true at the same time that struggle is actually pushing them apart. Because if that were true, every relationship would end badly. Because whether I'm talking about a spouse, a friend, a family member, a coworker, at some point there can be struggles, there's going to be conflicts, there's going to be misunderstandings, there's going to be problems that come up. And if problems could end a relationship, then every relationship would end badly, by definition, because those are going to happen. I just opened the Psalms to the beginning, and in Psalm 3 it starts out by saying, "O Lord, how many are my foes?" Psalm 4 starts out by saying, "Give me relief from my distress, Lord." Psalm 5 says, "Give ear to my words, O Lord, and consider my deep sighs." So the Psalms are really telling us, don't be surprised when conflict and struggles and problems come up. They're going to. This is not an unexpected development. So if the problem itself was enough to drive us apart, we'd all end up apart. Literally, I would end up with no friends, no family, no coworkers, nothing, because problems are going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that sarcastically or cynically. I mean, it's just true. Life's going to happen. And I love that story. I used to think it's the weirdest story in the Bible, and Matthew 13, where Jesus tells a parable of the wheat and the weeds. The master has his servants sow wheat in the field, and then somewhere along the way the enemy comes in and sprinkles weeds in there. The workers are all panicked, and they come to the master and say, "Oh my gosh, we got weeds in the weeds. Should we tear up the weeds?" And the master said, "No, let them be, and we'll sort it out at the end." And I used to think, that story is so odd. But I understand now. I now think, no, that story is so helpful to me. Because Jesus was saying, in life, there will be wheat and there will be weeds. And don't be surprised by this. This is not an unexpected development. In fact, until you get to the end, you don't necessarily even know which ones are which.
Wow.
That's
an insight. I have not thought of that before,
Yeah.
Glenn. That's a good one.
So, and it's interesting to me that the word we translate as wheat, weed, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, is a specific wheat called darnel. Now, I took speech therapy in second and third grade because I couldn't say my R's or my L's correctly, and anybody who's listened to me on here long enough knows I still can't. So, darnel is a hard one for me. D-A-R-N-E-L, darnel. When I spell it for people, they're like, "Oh, darnel." Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
You should have flashcards. Just hold them up.
Honestly, it's
Darnell.
That's right. I can't say it, so I printed it up for you. So anyway, that particular weed, when it first breaks ground, looks just like wheat.
Really?
So Jesus was trying to say, a lot of times the things we think are weeds actually turn out to be blessings. So if we ripped them all out at the beginning, we'd probably be throwing away things that are in the end are actually going to strengthen our relationship or our life if we meet that lesson. So don't throw them out now because, one, you don't know which is which actually. And two, that is life. Life has wheat and weeds. So no matter how great a relationship is, or how strong our ministry is, or how great a company I work for, or how good a friends I have, at some point there's going to be struggles, problems of some sort. This is just going to happen. And I can think, oh, that's terrible. Life is awful. And sometimes people say, Glenn, do you believe that life is really good, or do you believe that life is really hard? And I think, yep.
Exactly.
Or it's really, really good. And there are times when it's really, really hard. And they're mixed together oftentimes. They can each happen in the same day if you're actually paying any attention. So this is going to happen. And again, not negatively, not sarcastically. It's just true. Life is full of wheat. Miracles are all around us. Life is full of weeds. There are problems that we need to overcome. In fact, the things we learn from the problems are often the things that most help us grow along our way towards sanctification. So they're useful in their own way. So it's not true then that the problems rip us apart. That's not true. What is true is not being a team when we deal with that rips us apart.
Not being a team. So we're not acting in ways where we are for each other. We're acting in ways where we're setting up oppositions to one another.
Exactly. I'll give you just a real simple example. We'll talk more about it right after the next break. But for example, I know this. Anytime two people are arguing, two coworkers, married couple, friends, doesn't matter. I know the exact number of people who are listening, which is 0, and I know the exact number of people who actually have a good point, which is 2. So each person has a good point. They can tell the other person's not listening, so they make their point over again, louder. Like, this is what we call an argument. And I promise you, anybody who is listening, I just want you to think about this. Anytime you're in an argument, it's important to think, okay, I'm not listening. Not as a judgment, because there's no condemnation in Christ. Just as an awareness, I'm not actually listening. I'm so busy making my point that I'm not actually listening. So, for example, simple one, but I can give you lots more examples. A guy comes home on a Friday night and says, hon, I really went out from work, but I really want to celebrate. I had a great week. I'd love to take you out to dinner. And she said, I've been in the car all day. I don't want to drive forever to some restaurant. And then they argue. But think about that for just a second. If we quit talking about who's right, which is the crazy thought, and thought to ourselves, okay, we both have a good point. He wants to celebrate by going out to eat. She doesn't want to drive a really, really long way. Golly, this one's really hard. Honestly, a kid could solve that problem, right?
Go to a restaurant close to home.
Yes, I know. That's what I think. And so often when we're not a team about stuff, it's that we get into that conflict, me against you mode, instead of looking for the me and you answer, the A plus B answer, which there always is one. Because the truth is we both actually have a good point.
Glenn, when you were describing that scenario,
right,
I felt people listening getting triggered. I want to get you out of the kitchen. I don't want you to cook tonight. I want to take you out for a nice meal.
Right.
But you've been slaving away in the car all day, so you don't really want to get back in a car. I'm trying to be of service and loving, and you're resisting it, and I'm feeling triggered all of a sudden.
Right. Now, and if instead of just talking more, I'm trying to persuade the other person that I'm right, I just asked a question, because there's clearly something they said that I didn't get. And if they say, well, actually, I'm mostly tired of driving, so I would want you to drive. Oh, okay. I mean, you know what I mean? If I come up with a suggestion that I think puts my thought and your thought together and it doesn't work for you, there's just some other piece that I don't know yet. And I'm going to ask a question instead of arguing.
I like that. So when you have struggles, if you are doing this together as a team and it's us, we're going to have a much better chance of having some resolve.
Yes, we will come. I promise you, every single time. I've worked with couples on this for 40 years, so I don't know how many thousands of couples I've talked with this about, but there's never been a case when there wasn't an A plus B solution, ever.
A plus B, what does that mean?
That the point I'm making and the point you're making are both true, and they're both important, and they both have to be part of the solution. My answer plus your answer is the actual answer. So we each argue for our part of the answer, but it's like, no, my answer plus your answer is actually the answer, always.
I like that. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We're talking about when struggles threaten to push the two of you apart. Are you in a struggle right now where you feel like you're just separating emotionally. Maybe you're in a standoff, you're cold shouldering. That can be the result of struggles because you're not working as a team. Does that sound right, Glenn?
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
I'd be curious to know how we can help this hour, how we, when I say we, I mean Dr. Glenn Pickering, not me, but how he can help you maybe get past a stalemate. 877-933-2484. I love the passages in Psalms, Glenn, that you started with. Can I just read those again?
Yeah, please do.
Because Psalm 3 says, O Lord, how many are my foes? Psalm 4 says, give me relief from my distress. And Psalm 5 says, give ear to my words, O Lord. Consider my deep sighs. Boy, there is lots of stress and tension in the world. And I love this illustration of weeds and wheat. They kind of should be able to at some point live together. So, Glenn, I'm curious, when we talk about not working as a team, do most people, when they come into your counseling office, do you realize that they're not working as a team?
I know that. The only question is, can I help them seeing that without being, without doing that wrongly? And here's what I mean. See, I need to be on their team as well. And so if I point out what they're doing wrong, but in a way that sounds judgmental or condemning to them, I'm not on their team. And I'm talking to them about being on a team while I'm not on their team. So my job is to help them see the power that would happen between the two of them if they chose to be a team in the most loving way I can do that, because I want to be on their team. I want good for them. And I just think I, as a counselor, but any of us who are trying to be a mentor to anybody or any couple need to remember, unless they can tell we're on their team, they're not going to hear everything we say. So just like they have trouble being on a team, they're going to have trouble letting me be on the team because they think I'm probably going to judge them and tell them they're doing it wrong. So I need to be going out of my way to say, hey, I get it. You're actually both right. You both have a really good point. We just need to slow down, listen to each other, figure out an answer that works together, and you will both be way happier, which is totally true, of course.
So getting a chance to speak your position, your truth, whatever it is, and do that in a safe environment turns out to be very helpful.
Right. And here's the cool thing. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to tell the truth because that could be hurtful. But see, they're misunderstanding what the truth is. The truth is the only truth I know is about myself. So if I'm just saying, well, here's how I think about that, or here's how I feel about that, or here's what I would like about that, I'm never going to hurt somebody else. I'm just saying what I think about me. Now, some people say, well, we're going to just tell it like it is. And what they mean is they say mean things about other people. Well, that's not the truth. The only truth I know is how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, and what I want. Those are the truth. I can say those things without ever being hurtful.
So when somebody says, I want to be brutally honest, most times they're more brutal than they are honest.
Right. And they're really asking permission to be mean.
Yeah, that's
I
tough.
think, the goal, well, when Jesus says in Matthew 18 or 19, I always confuse those two about how, if your brother sins against you, you go and tell him, just your brother. If he hears you, you've gained a brother. We need to remember, if there's a conflict, my goal shouldn't be to be right or to prove a point or make the other person wrong. Our goal should be that we walk away feeling connected again. And unless we come up with an answer where my part of what I said and the thing that you said are part of the answer, that's not going to happen. So we need to remember, God is not interested in me being right. God is interested in me loving each other, and that's not about just making my point.
This is true, but these are hard words, Glenn.
Yeah, they are. They
really are.
They push people, how can I say? Well, when it says in the first chapter of James, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for anger does not work the purpose of God's kingdom. I think we all hear those words and we nod our heads. And then a conflict starts and we instantly quit listening because we're so busy making our point. We all have this. We can just be childishly impulsive. And please understand, I don't mean that judgmentally. I mean, that's just what happens. We go to that place where we get so intensely thinking we have to make our point that's kind of all we're thinking about, like a little child who can only think about themselves. So it's just important when I say to people, hey, if you get in an argument, you need to remember your ego is now in control, not your spirit. your human side, this is not going to lead to a good outcome. This is not going to lead to a godly outcome. This is not going to make you feel more connected to each other. This is not going to lead to a win-win. It's tempting. It's our first knee-jerk reaction, but it's not going to be helpful.
What if buried in your psyche is, I'm not sure I want to be connected anymore?
And see, if we drift far enough apart, and I always say in relationships that we always either going closer and closer together or further and further apart. See, part of the reason why that's true is that students even start drifting apart, then I question whether I even want to be connected, which makes us more apart. And that process starts happening faster and faster, and we grow further and further apart.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way to retrieve those situations?
Yes.
That's good to know.
Here's a really cool thing. We were literally connected by God created by God to be connected to Him and to other people. So, if any two people, even if they're at great odds, are really willing to slow down, pay attention, listen to each other, look for the win-win, really be a team about everything, they will notice that they're falling back in love with one another, that there's this powerful love that connects them. And I think, right, because you are letting God be at the center of your relationship. So, even a relationship that might feel to people like, well, we're too far gone, I think that's never true. And I'm not being sarcastic, it just isn't.
Right. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. You can learn more about him at drglennpickering.com. That's Glenn with 2 N's, drglennpickering.com. We're talking today about when struggles threaten to push the two of you apart. If you have a question for Dr. Pickering, you can text it over 877-933-2484. We'll be right back. Welcome is a word said universally all over the world. Every language on the planet has their own way of making a friendly greeting. At Faith Radio, when we welcome, we really mean it. Learn more about us by requesting a free welcome pack gift. Text the word welcome to 877-933-2484 or visit myfaithradio.com to request your welcome pack today. And a warm welcome to you. Welcome to the show. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest, and we want to recreate break talk. What happens during the break is sometimes super interesting, and Glenn and I were just chatting about weeds and wheat. That was such an interesting illustration, and there has been plenty of weeds that have shown up in your life, Glenn, and you were talking about things that have been challenging. You had a list of maybe 6 in particular. Right. I'm not asking you to name them, but just make the point you made during the break.
Well, the reason I think Jesus says, hey, let the wheat and the weeds grow, we'll sort them out at the end, is that not only, as I said before, do we not always know the difference, because, darnel, that particular weed, looks a lot like wheat when it starts out. But oftentimes, those weeds can turn out to be turning points in our life. And I was saying at break time that I listed the 6 times in my life that were the very hardest to go through. And the 6 times, another list were the 6 times in my life where I grew the most, where God really, really led me forward. Of course, it'd be the same list. And so even the things we think are weeds, and are, they are hard times. I'm not trying to be dismissive. We are going to go through times that are really hard. But if we're willing to learn in that process about being a team, letting people be on our side, being on their team, letting God lead us, as we come out the other side, we will come out stronger and wiser and deeper. And then that thing we call the weed might turn out to be a turning point in our life, like in a really amazing way.
I know we want to make a reference point to Romans 8.
Right.
Because 8:28 is such a powerful verse, which I think supports this thought that you're having.
Right. When it says that in all things God works to bring about the good, I think, right. It doesn't mean that all situations are good. It means that even in a situation that seem bleak, the kinds of things that Psalm 3 and 4 and 5 are talking about, if we're willing to meet those head on and learn something and really be serious about sanctification, really letting God teach us and shape us in those times, we will come out stronger and better. And God really will work to bring about the good, because that's always God's intent. So even in our hard times, it's important to remember, Glenn's right. You should always start with that. It's supposed to be funny, but it didn't go anywhere. All right, but about this, that remember, if we're arguing, nobody's listening, but both people have a good point. So if you stop and think, okay, I'm going to listen to James 1. I'm going to listen first. I'm going to listen to what the other person, my friend, my family member, my co-partner is saying to me. And before I speak my part, I'm going to make sure that I understand their part and that they can tell that I do. Because remember, in an argument, two people have a good point, but nobody's listening. So each person keeps making their point over again because they can tell the other person not listening. So I have to make sure I actually understand what they said and that they can tell that I do. Because then they don't have to keep making their point over again.
Usually show up to those arguments with one tool, and I think it's a hammer. And you're just trying to keep repeating it over and over until somebody says, okay, all right, I see it your way.
Right, you win. And but of course, if an argument ends with, okay, you win, everybody loses, right? Because everybody's going to walk away feeling bad.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as resolution. We did not find a mutual agreement, and people will be resentful about that quote-unquote agreement for who knows how long. So, yes, that's not a good outcome.
So I want to go back to the whole idea that when we have things that are difficult in our lives and we want to run because we don't know what to do, which is never the right choice. But how important and critical is self-talk at that point?
I think my self-talk at that point, which is how we get into trouble, is, how can we say, when people are having an argument, both people have gone into fear mode, and here's what I mean. Lots of people talk about this world as being a struggle between good and evil. I'm not saying those two things do exist, because they obviously do. But the first choice is love versus fear. If I'm choosing love, I will do good. If I'm choosing fear, I'll almost always do evil, because when I'm caught up in fear, I become very self-centered. Mm-hmm. So as soon as we have an argument and it gets a little loud, both people are actually operating out of fear. Fear that they're not going to be heard, fear that they're not going to be understood, fear that the other person doesn't care. And in that fearfulness, they'll become very self-centered. And they'll say and do hurtful things. So the question is, okay, the self-talk is I have to take charge of myself, which means I have to let God charge me because I can't do it myself. To remember, Gwen's precious to me, my friend is precious to me, this family member really matters to me. We're here to work on relationships. I need to listen. Mm-hmm. I need to drop my little prideful thing that says I need to be right, which is a crazy thought, and think, no, I want to be in the right relationship. And so, which if I take even just 10 seconds to be a prayer, God will remind me of that very clearly. Glenn, I didn't put you on earth to be right. I put you on earth to be in the right relationship with me and with other people in your life.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, here's a question that came in. What happens when you don't want to blend money as the big argument every time? But arguments we talk about splitting up. Why would I want to risk blending money in a second marriage in my mid to late 60s? We're in a very serious spot in deciding to continue in this marriage or not. Struggling, and I need help.
If the struggle is about money, now maybe there are bigger struggles, and the money just shows up as the side topic. Mm-hmm. But if money is actually the question, like, remember this, well, I'm going to talk about parenting for a second, just as an analogy, and I'm going to come back to this. Like, for example, sometimes people will say, well, Glenn, we just can't get along. We have kids, and we just don't agree about parenting. And I say, yeah, like, what do you mean? Well, one person thinks we should have strict rules and it should be enforced, and the other one just wants to be real loving and caring to our kids, and we can't agree about who's right. But see, again, the key words are they're trying to figure out who's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bad conversation. It has to be a bad conversation because the only way I can prove I'm right is to prove that you're wrong. Well, what are the odds you're going to walk away happy out of that conversation?
No, not very good.
So even in something as fundamental as that, we need to understand, no, we're both right. Every really great parenting person will tell you, kids need to have clear rules. They need to be enforced, but they need to be lovingly enforced. The kids need to know what the rules are. They have to have a warning if they break the rules so they remember. And they have to be part of figuring out what the consequences are so they really feel like they bought into that system. So should I treat the kids lovingly or should they have clear rules? Well, see, that question doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. If I really do parenting right, the thing I said and the thing you said are going to be part of the answer, always. So if two people say, Glenn, we disagree about money, I'm thinking, okay.
About blending money.
About blending money. Mm-hmm. Because remember, once we get into arguments, we're fearful. So I'd ask each person to think, okay, what's your fear about money? And what's your hope?
My fear would be some inequality as a result of the marriage not going well.
Right.
All of a sudden, I'm at a place where I don't have as much money as I once did because I blended it, and then what?
Right. Okay. And the hope is?
I don't know, Wyatt. What do you what do you think?
I'm just happy to be in the same room as you two, so
yeah.
I'm hoping the expert tells us on this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
If only I knew one. All right. So what I'm thinking is, if somebody says, well, my hope is that we could be a team about all things. I want to be loving. I want to do the right thing, but I don't want to get ripped off. I think, okay. So if what you want is to find a loving way to be a team, let's talk about what team looks like. If you were really in a team about this in a way that made you both feel secure and cared for, what would that look like? Mm-hmm. And we're going to have that conversation until we figure that out.
What does the team look like?
What is it? What, if you were a team that really trusted each other, what would that look like? How would you have that set up? Now, some people say, well, Glenn, we want to do our money together. And some people say, well, I want to have some spending money. I don't want to do everything together. And I think, again, see, this is not hard. Put aside the bulk of your money, put that in the family account, pay for the bills, and have some money each month that goes to each of you to share, spend it however you want to spend it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like there are no insurmountable questions. I just have to make sure I'm asking questions, like what matters to you, what's important to you, what you're afraid of, so we can come up with a solution that makes sense to you.
Well, asking questions can be, you can end up poking the bear, and maybe there's nights you don't want to poke the bear.
Well, here's the thing. A, that might be true. If I'm talking to a drunk person, I'm not going to talk to them about money. But, see, it's back to the thing I said before. If I just tell the truth, if I just say, well, here's kind of what I'm thinking, here's kind of what I'm afraid of, here's kind of what I'm hoping, I just tell my truth, I'm not going to poke the bear because I'm not judging anybody else. I'm not putting anybody else down. I'm not making any judgments about anybody else. I'm just saying, here's what I would like. Okay. If the other person does exactly the same, here's what I would like. Well, the odds that we're going to be able to put those two together is like 99.9. So I'm only poking the bear if I say something bad about somebody else.
Okay.
But remember, when I'm telling the truth, I'm just talking about me and what I think and what my fears are and what I would like to see. I'm just telling my truth.
Mm-hmm. And when I say poke the bear, I mean I don't want there to be some big blow-up argument that doesn't go anywhere.
Right. But let's say me and you have a topic to talk about, and we both come in really scared that it's going to be a really bad argument. Mm-hmm. Guess what? We will live into that exact fear.
Probably.
Now, Gwen and I used to tell each other we couldn't talk about money because we had such bad conversations about money. But we finally realized we had bad conversations about money because we never talked about money. The instant we started talking about it, I got into this defensive posture where I felt like she said I'd never made enough money. She got all defensive, like, you think I spend too much money. And we had that conversation over and over and over again. It's stupid.
Yeah.
But once we got that, we thought, okay, we both bring fear into this. How can we be not fearful? So we thought, okay, we're going to talk about the budget for 5 minutes at a time. We're going to hold hands. When I pray before we start and ask God to help us to remember how much we love each other and that we want to be kind, and we're going to do this for 5 minutes, and then we're going to quit, no matter what. Because we just knew if we brought love into this and brought God into it, that we'd find some way to override our fears. But we both needed to override our fears.
And it's interesting the boundaries you put on, saying we'll talk about it for 5 minutes.
Right, and then we're going to go. And it's because, here's why I say that, that's why we did it, but it's also why I tell it to my clients. Because let's say there's a conversation that me and Gwen have that always has gone bad. Okay, so we talk about it for 5 minutes. So we think, hey, this is going good. Let's keep talking. Well, guess what's going to happen pretty soon?
It's going to go bad.
Right, we're going to get in one of our old conversations because we can only stay in this framework for so long. We're peripheral and listening and really working to listen to each other. Mm-hmm. So we want to do it for 5 minutes. We want to take a break. We want to congratulate each other. We want to pray to God and thank God for God's help. And we're going to go do something else.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Glenn.
Small victories. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We're going to take a little break and come back, continue our discussion when struggles threaten to push the two of you apart. If you have a question or comment, let me know what it is. 877-933-2484. You can learn more about Glenn at his website, drglennpickering.com. That's Glenn with two N's, GLENNPICKERING.com. We'll be right back. My guest today is Dr. Glenn Pickering. We're talking about when struggles threaten to push the two of you apart. All right, Glenn, let's talk about taking turns when it comes to conversation.
Well, when one of us, and Gwen taught me this really early on in the marriage in a way that was just so helpful to me. We were doing what couples often do. We had a thing that went kind of south, and she started talking about why that was hurtful to her because of some of the things I said. And I'm like, yeah, but what about what you said? You said, and she held her finger up and she said, Glenn, it's my turn.
Oh.
If there's stuff you need to tell me about, that's perfectly great. But you need to do that when it's your turn. We can't do two of them at one time. And she was about as blunt with me about that as she ever has been. Not meanly, but just so clear. And I thought, oh, that's so right. Because if we're really trying to get to the point of clarity, where I understand her and she understands me, well, we can't both keep throwing mud in the water. It just gets less and less clear. One of us has to speak until we're both clear about what happened to them. Great. Then the other one can speak until we're both clear about what happened to them. Now we can figure out what to do. But if we don't do that, we never get to clarity. We just keep throwing more mud in the water, thinking somehow we're going to win that argument. It's like, no, you're not. It's crazy. So, and then when it is our turn, we have to ask for what we want. And it says in James 4:3, you don't get what you want because you don't ask for what you want. And Jesus in Matthew 7 says, ask and it shall be given unto you. And I don't know, sometimes people say, well, I shouldn't have to say, you should already know that, blah, 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 which is just a cop-out way of not being vulnerable enough to ask for what you want. So here's blind Bartimaeus, the beggar, standing in front of Jesus, and Jesus said, what do you want? And I notice Bartimaeus doesn't say, you should know the answer to that. He says, I'd like my sight restored. Done. Mm-hmm. See, there's something about asking that opens our heart. And Jesus says the same thing, ask and it shall be given unto you. And it's not because my Father is withholding. I'm not giving you nothing if you don't ask. That's not it. God always wants to bless me. But there's something about asking for what I want that opens my heart to receive it, which is what Jesus understood, and so did Bartimaeus at that point. So let's say we go through an argument. Gwen says, here's why my feelings got hurt. And I listen, I'm just paying attention, and I get it. That she really felt unheard, that I was so busy talking, and she was trying to tell me something really important, and I missed it altogether, and she felt unheard. Great. Now I understand. That's what happened. And then I'm going to say, what do you need? Now notice, you have to be really careful. That doesn't mean, well, from now on in the future, you should always... No. What do you need right now? What can we do in the next 45 seconds that would be helpful to you? What do you need right now? And she says, well, I really felt unheard. So if I could just say it to you again and you just pay attention really carefully this time, that'd be great. Okay, that's what we're going to do right now. Mm-hmm. You're going to say it again to me, and I'm going to pay really careful attention, and I'm going to summarize it at the end so you can tell that I got it.
Or could she have said, you're trying to fix it real quick. That's just what men do. How about next time you listen more carefully? Nope.
Can't help you next time. That doesn't help anything. She doesn't know that. Even if I say, okay, next time I won't, she doesn't know if that's true. You know what I mean? It's just a slippery way of not actually being helpful right now. So if she feels like, I don't think you heard what I said, well, in the future I will. See, that's just a way of not being humble enough to say, tell it to me again and I'll listen. So when it's your turn and you ask them what they need, you better make sure you've got great tone and it's a sincere question. Right? And a willingness to do whatever that is right now. So if she says, well, I felt like you were sort of distracted and weren't paying attention. I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to bother arguing. I'm not going to defend myself because it's not my turn.
Yeah.
I say, okay, cool. I see now that you felt like I wasn't paying attention. Really sorry for whatever I did that made you feel that way. Tell me again and I promise I'll pay attention. Mm-hmm. I mean, what can we do right now? Or she says, when I was telling it to you, I felt really alone. And I say, okay, tell it to me again. I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to be praying for you while you tell me so you can tell you're not alone. You know what I mean? What can I do right now to solve this thing that happened between us right now?
Yeah. Is Gwen listening right now?
Actually, she's probably on retreat somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So if she hears the tape and Glenn asks you that question, Gwen, just say a 90-minute foot massage.
In the next 45 seconds, what can I do right now? I mean,
you put a time frame on it.
One time we were driving down the street, and there's a street light like 3 blocks down. I said, what can I do before we hit that street light to be helpful to you? Mm-hmm. Like, we really need to be clear. Not some general thing and some future thing I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. No, what can I do right now that's helpful?
Yeah, it's a loving thing.
Yes.
Even though it feels like I want to fix something right now, and that feels like a guy's desire to fix it.
Right. And honestly, here's the trick, and that's why it drives women crazy. Our attempts to fix things are just an attempt to get them to not be upset with us.
Right.
But see, I need to let her be upset with me. If she felt like I didn't hear her, I need to hear that she felt unheard so I can listen now and she can tell I actually heard her. My fixing it prematurely is just a way to not share the pain. Well, that's a cop-out. It's a cheap way to go.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about continually asking God's help.
Right. Now, we talked a little bit about this before, that when we get caught up in a struggle, we can just be sure that our ego is taken over, and I just mean that human part of us. A friend of mine at Glenn's used to say that EGO stands for edging God out. Mm-hmm. And I think there's truth to that, because if we're caught up in an argument, our ego is so busy being right that the way God wants us to think about ourselves and about that other person literally just got edged out of the whole scene. So part of really asking God is, even in that moment that there's an argument, and I think, okay, I need to slow down, I need to pay attention to Gwen, I'm going to ask God to give me patience and focus and humility to make sure I really listen to what Gwen is saying. Or even if she says, well, Glenn, what happened to you, and now it's my turn, I'm going to do the same thing, because I want to talk in a way where I'm just talking about me and what happened to me and what I would like for me. So I don't have to talk about her or put her down in any way. I'm just saying, here's what happened for me. I felt uncared for. I just need to know that you actually care about the thing I said. And Gwen's going to say, okay, cool. Let me tell you how much I care about that. Great. So I'm going to ask for God's help in either direction, not as an outcome. See, here's what I think about all the time. People always pray for an outcome, but I think more and more, God, I just really get, God wants to be on my team. And again, I need to ask. So I'm going to ask for strength. I'm going to ask for patience. I'm going to ask for clarity. I'm going to ask for the things that will lead to the right outcome, but I'm not praying for an outcome, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense.
I'm praying for God to shape my heart in a way so that I show up in this conversation in the way that I would want to show up. So it's not about, well, make Gwen see my point. Oh, my gosh. No, it's about helping me to be the person I would want to be in this conversation, which doesn't have anything to do with the exact outcome. It just has to do with who am I being in this conversation.
We had a guest on, Wyatt, maybe you can help me remember this one, but it was, one of the points was we need to learn how to wait well.
Right.
Sounds familiar.
It does sound familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the point, Glenn, and how important it is to learn how to wait and just to do that well. And so when you're talking about these processes, seeking guidance, clarity, strength versus just having an outcome.
Right.
So sometimes you just have to wait.
Right.
And that's not pleasant.
No, it's hard sometimes, but here's the really cool thing. If I don't do that, and I just do what every human does, otherwise just argue for my point over and over again, 3 hours from now, we're still going to be stuck in this really ugly conversation. We're going to have a bad weekend. Or I can wait patiently for 14 seconds while Gwen finishes that sentence, and I really understand. Ask her for 45 seconds what I can do right now that's helpful, and a minute from now, we're going to be having a really good day.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand. We all have that impatient part of us that just really wants to jump in, but that impatient part is not our friend. That impatient part will keep this thing going for so long, we'll both just walk away feeling bad.
So how do we improve the patience part?
God help me, God help me, God help me.
Yeah,
God,
I get it.
God help me, God help me.
Yeah. Help me, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Because I just think God is pro-love. When it says in the Bible that God is love, I think, right. So anytime I'm trying to be loving, God is on my team and will always help me, lead me, guide me. And it's not about an outcome. It's showing up as my most loving self. That will always lead to a good outcome. I don't even have to care what the outcome is at that point.
Glenn, talk about having a godly identity. I would think that's something we want to be pursuing above an outcome.
Right. See, whenever there's a conflict and I'm going to a meeting, I used to think, okay, I'm going to say this and they're going to say that and I'm going to say this. And I was sort of playing out the script about what I was going to say and blah, blah, blah. But, life is ad lib, so it never goes that way anyway. Mm-hmm. And I found out that was really not helpful. So I started praying instead ahead of time, God, show me the person I need to be.
I like that.
And maybe it was I need to be listening. I need to be slowing down. I need to pay attention. I need to make sure everybody in the group feels included. And And so then instead of having words that I've memorized and doing those words, I just keep coming back to the vision for the whole conversation. Just really keep trying to come back to that picture and try and be that guy, that picture that God put on my heart for me. And so I'm not trying to say certain things or get to a certain outcome or be clever. I'm just really trying to be true to that picture that God gave me. And I find over and over again, if I can just stay true to that picture, the outcome will be better than anything I could have conceived of or manipulated myself anyway. So,
how often do we go into conversations feeling pretty scripted?
Right.
I'm going to say that. The response will probably be this, and then I'll say that, and
right. And
it never goes that way, does it?
Right. And I know they're just going to say this, and I'm like, see, but if I come in as a loving person, even if it is true that the last 3 times I tried to bring this with my partner, they reacted in a certain defensive way. Well, they probably reacted in a defensive way because I came on so attacking.
Mm-hmm.
If I come on gently and carefully and lovingly and really trying to be on their team, they might very well respond differently. So when people say, well, I know how they're going to respond, I think only if you come in at them the same you always do. If you're willing to ask God to help you be different in that conversation, they will probably react to you differently.
How do you introduce this new you that shows up to the conversation? This gentle, loving, listening, all this. That's going to raise suspicion.
Suspicion of what?
Well, who got to you? What are you doing?
What are
I'm
you
feeling
on?
manipulated.
Right.
What do you want?
You know, the greatest thing is total transparency. So let's say I have been sort of jerky about it in the past. I'm going to start off with Gwen or my friend or whatever. I'm going to say, you know what? I probably come on too strong about this in the past, and then you got all defensive, and that's on me.
Ooh, I like that.
I want to find a different way to talk about that if we can. So I'm going to be as not clever as I can possibly be.
I like that a lot. That is very transparent.
It's transparent, and it goes back to what Jesus said. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye? You don't see the log in your own eye. So if we've had bad conversations about this, I can blame it on the other person because they reacted badly, but I probably set them up for reacting badly, and I need to look at my part.
Yeah.
So by coming in and saying, I'm sorry for in the past I came on too strong. Here's all I was trying to say.
I like
this
that.
is me taking responsibility for my part.
Yeah, very good. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. Learn more about Glenn at his website, drglennpickering.com. We're going to continue our discussion on when struggles threaten to push the two of you apart. We'll be right back. We carry each other's burdens. Please know you can bring us your prayer concerns and we will pray. Share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio team by texting or calling 877-933-2484 or share your prayer requests with the Faith Radio staff and listeners at myfaithradio.com. What happens when struggles in your life threaten to push you apart from your loved ones? The struggles are going to happen. There's no question about it. Dr. Glenn Pickering is my guest. We talked about Matthew 13 to get things started about the wheat and the weeds.
Right.
And that was a beautiful illustration of how they're together. And oftentimes the weeds in life produce pretty amazing lessons in our life. And God leads us through all of those.
Right. Yes, I think, and if I'm actually willing to believe that, let me start from a different place. People always want to tell me their justification story, and that's okay. Except, they probably told that story 100 times, and even they're probably kind of bored with it. I want to hear the sanctification story. What's happening to you right now? What is the lesson God is teaching you right at this moment? What's your leading edge right now? What are you praying about today? What are you learning this week? What have you found out in your relationship that you didn't know before this? Like, tell me about the sanctification process. And here's how come. I believe in this life we're supposed to learn things. We're supposed to gain in wisdom. And I had a client come into my office years ago, a certain kind of Christian, who started off our time together by saying, Glenn, do you believe that Jesus Christ is both fully human and fully divine? I thought to myself, yeah, put the gun down and take 2 steps back. But I said, yeah, of course he was. But my question for him is, yeah, but isn't that true for you too? I mean, we're all divine. We all have a spirit, that part of us that prays to God and seeks God's leadership. And that spirit is always walking around in a human body. So if we're on a sanctification process, if we really are learning, what happens is we become more and more and more true to our spiritual self, our best self, and less ruled by our human impulses. So that I used to think, well, when we died and go to heaven, it's a total shift. But see, I think if we live our life well, if we're really serious about sanctification, and we become more and more and more shaped in the image of Christ in our lifetime, then the next step is more of a transition than it is an abrupt change. It's like I go from being mostly spirit to being all spirit if I get it right. And so I really take that sanctification journey seriously because I think we're really out here to learn and to be shaped more and more in the image of Christ. And people use those words, but I don't know if they really get the full import of them. That really is our goal in life, is to become more and more Christ-like in all that we do. And so we need to get better and better calling on God, about trusting our spirit, about being in relationship, about connecting to people and to God, and less and less about getting our own way or being right, which are childish. Not evil, just childish, immature.
Yeah, I like that comment about sanctification versus justification in this situation, because sometimes I'm guessing it's easier to go to that old closet that's got the past hurts in it and dig one of those out.
Right.
Versus how am I doing today? How am I interacting today? What steps forward can I take?
Right. And how do I need to grow in this relationship that has little struggles in it? I quit blaming the other person and say, okay, what is God trying to teach me here? If I was to rise to a different level here, what would that look like? What do I need to learn here? See, now we're on a whole different path.
It's hard, but it's worth it.
Yes, it is so worth it. It brings so much joy and so much peace and so much maturity and so much happiness that to not choose that path now, I just understand, is really crazy.
We often go to the path of lesser resistance.
Right.
And we stick with what we know is painful and uncomfortable versus painful and forward thinking.
Right. I always think sometimes when I talk to a client about a thing I want them to do differently, they say, oh, Glenn, that's going to be hard. And I don't argue. I think, yeah, it's going to be. But see, life is going to be hard. It can either be hard because I keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, very unsatisfying, or it's hard because I'm being challenged to grow past my comfort zone and become a more and more amazing person. Which kind of hard do you want? Because we're going to pick one of those two.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's something floating around the internet right now, which I've brought up on the air more than once already, but basically it's pick your hard. You know, being in a bad relationship is hard. Being in a good relationship is hard and takes work, right?
Right.
So pick your hard.
Right. Pick which one you want.
Yeah.
Because one of those is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I talk a lot about praying with and for each other, and as sort of a final thought on this topic, because mostly when people pray, they pray about the other one. Oh, God, help Gwen's heart be softened so she's not such a pain in my neck. Well, see, that's not praying for her, right?
Even though you've prayed that.
I know. I just think I need to be praying for Gwen. I want Gwen to have goodness and happiness, and I want to pray that her life go well, and I want to pray that she's open to the blessings God has for her today, and I want to be praying for her all the time, even in the midst of those conflict times. When she needs to take a second, because it's her turn, to think, okay, what happened to me and what do I need? I'm over there praying that God helps her be clear, that helps her know exactly what she wants, that God helps give her the right words, and that God softens my heart to make sure that I'm open to whatever she's asking for. So I want to be praying for Gwen at those times. But I want to be praying for Gwen the rest of the time, too. I want to know what's going to happen during her day, and I want to be praying for that time. And the same for her. I just think the more we're praying for each other through the day, the easier it will be to pray for each other when the conflicts happen, which, of course, they will.
So, Glenn, we just have a minute left. Let's talk about gratitude. That's always an important truth.
Right. Yes. So, James says in the first chapter, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for that anger does not work for God's good. I think, right. If I can look at Gwen and think about every good thing about her, every amazing thing about her, everything I'm grateful for, all the way she blesses my life. See, that's one way to look at her. Or I can look at little resentments and petty things that didn't, quote, unquote, go my way, and I can be all bright, self-righteous, and angry and indignant about that. But see, when it says in 1 Thessalonians, in all circumstances give thanks, what happens then is it shifts our heart in the positive and loving direction instead of the self-centered, upset direction, and choosing to be grateful will literally always make us happy, and it really is a choice. I'm more and more struck by how true that actually is.
Excellent conversation today, Glenn. Thank you so much. Dr. Glenn Pickering has been my guest. You can learn more about him and his amazing services and seminars and counseling at drglennpickering.com. If you missed any of this hour and you are in a struggle where the two of you might be moving apart, this is an hour you will be happy you went back and checked the podcast out at myfaithradio.com. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back. Hour 2 is just ahead, and from what I can tell, as I look out into the green room, Bible teacher and friend Jeff Verdorn is there, and we're going to continue our study on Christ in prophecies. That's all next. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.